How will you
shape
your realm? How will
you
make history?
make
history?
make history?
I guess the biggest thing is just that Medieval 3 is real, I guess. Like, that feels weird to say. Must be feeling weird to make.
Super weird, yeah. It's amazing that we're here. This is not our first try at Medieval 3, which isn't, it's probably not hard to believe, but yeah, this is the time, and it's pretty special.
I think it was your first Total War you worked on, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Too.
And for me as a fan, I remember when Medieval 2 came out, right? It was definitely sort of the early days of really getting invested in the franchise with Rome 1 and Med 2. So definitely feels very exciting, but also a bit scary to now finally be actually making it. So
yeah, it's we see it as a magnum opus, right? It's a title that many of us. It's my favorite Total War game. It was my first, like Life mentions, the first game that I worked on when I joined CA back in 2005, and it's a game that we've wanted to make for a very long time, and it's a game that we attempted a few times, but we've always had such high ambitions for this title because the expectations, our own expectations as well as our fans' expectations, have always been so high. We've always wanted to find the right time, the right team, the right place to make it. So yeah, it's hard to believe but that time is now.
I mean, I did hear earlier today that I think there were 2 or 3 attempts to start Medieval 3, and just none of them quite worked out. What is it about now that is different, I guess, then?
So it's it's a constant configuration of the right people in the right place, where we are with the technology, with the engine and development, the shared development across the Total War titles, and the Warcore kind of developments. So it's kind of allowing us to realize the ambitions that we have for Medieval 3.
I think also there's an element of it's been a few years since sort of the last major historical title. Certainly our community views it that way, and I think was sort of felt like the right moment to do a bit of a reboot, almost like a reimagining of what any historical Total War should really look like, and especially Medieval 3. So it was a great combination of, let's say, the new step for that part of the franchise, and what better title, what better setting to choose for that step than Medieval.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on that, I mean, we've been talking about this as the rebirth of historical Total War. It's the most anticipated historical title. Obviously, historical is ours. It's our IP. It's something that we hold dear to us at at CA for Total War. And this such hotly anticipated, wanted title is the perfect kind of point with which we can foster that rebirth and build on the new technology and build on the future of historical titles.
And I think when you look back at other historical titles, all of them stand the test of time, like for slightly different reasons. Mm-hmm. When you think about Medieval 2, what is it about that framework that's been set down there so long ago that makes it worth revisiting and building on now?
I think for me personally, it's the setting. I mean, it's my favorite setting, historical setting, mainly because I'm Polish. I come from Kraków, a medieval city. I grew up with medieval all around me, and for me that's the most most powerful, the setting that's most kind of powerful for me personally. But it came at a time. It built on Rome 1, which was such a revolutionary title, and it kind of perfected so many of the things that Rome had done, and just really kind of built on that great formula. So it's just I mean, everybody has a different I think story and a reason why they feel Medieval 2 was such a powerful installment in the franchise.
And I think what's really interesting about, let's say, that generation of Total War games and Med 2 specifically is how, in a way, the gameplay is fairly limited almost by comparison to the modern Total War titles. But there's something about the world really coming to life. The little things like the population that our community cares a lot about, the trade ships moving across the map. So there's something about how the world really felt real, authentic, and almost simulated in a way. And I think that was really inspiring to go back to these, let's say, roots of, okay, hang on, like the gameplay, of course, is really important, but let's really make sure that the world is coming alive in a way that's really special.
But also, actually alive. A lot of the older games, it's kind of, a lot of it is kind of players filling in the gaps, right? It's that suspension of disbelief. The game is so immersive that you kind of build up the stories of all this is kind of going on, and you kind of fill in those gaps. Whereas, what we're looking at to do is actually bring all those things to life and actually have them present within the world.
So it was a nice tie-in into sort of the core motto of our vision, like the notion of rewriting history, where obviously that's a part of every Total War game. In Medieval 2, obviously had a lot of these elements where you build your realm across Europe and you go on crusades and whatnot. But a lot of it almost felt like it was in your head only. Like if you made a lot of notes while you played, you could really come up with a compelling story. But the game didn't always help you to connect the dots or to show you all the facets of how you're reshaping and rewriting history. And that was a big starting point for Medieval 3, that we really wanted to show more layers of how you impact the world, more layers of how you can rewrite history and how the world responds to your actions as well.
And because you used the word simulation, it does make me think, like, where's the right balance between keeping it as a total war game and, like, a lot of what we're talking about now sounds a lot more like Crusader Kings, things that are specifically made to go as deep as possible. Like, right now, where are you sat on finding the right balance of that?
I think that's where these older titles were really inspiring, because in a way, the starting point feels like it's the simulation, and then you build the gameplay interactions on top of that. And that's very similar to how we're approaching it for Medieval 3, where let's first think about, okay, how would we portray the world? How would we simulate the world? And then we think about, okay, now we apply let's say the Total War lens on it, get you to the Hollywood action space, you could say, to leave a mark on the world.
Yeah, and I think it's important also to this is a Total War game. So the things that are true to Total War, which is painting the map red, that kind of power fantasy, that's present. But what we have is more layers of that simulation that the player can interact with if they choose to. Right? It's that kind of, it's peeling back those layers of engagement depending on the way the player wants to play and experience the game. On the face of it, yes, they can treat it like a Total War game and paint the map red, or they can engage with all of these systems, all of these layers. They make it so much more meaningful.
And how are you expecting this to change sort of as players are introduced to it? Like, how flexible are you staying at the minute in terms of, I suppose, like start date of the game, things like that, mechanics? How flexible are you staying right now?
Well, it's early. We're very early pre-production, so it's kind of everything's up for grabs. So it's about fine-tuning. We have some ideas, we have some preferences of where we'd like to start. The kind of mid to high medieval is kind of a great point with got some big names like Saladin and Richard Lionheart. That's a great period, but it depends on many factors, and it's for us to kind of arrive and distill on that direction. And part of announcing so early is to bring the players on that journey with us. And we're going to be talking about these things, discussing them within our Total War community hub. And some things we'll even let the players decide through polls or through iterative kind of feedback sessions. We'll be collaborating on some areas of the game.
I think you were coining the term of lifting the veil of game development, which certainly a component here as well, that we expose a little bit more to our community. Okay, how are we going about making a game like this? And with that, of course, comes a certain, let's say, the realities of development, where you build certain things first and then you layer things on top. So the core foundations we need to put into place, imminently. And these will be the things we are starting to discuss with our community first. And then, we will step through the process together. As Pat was saying, of course, we have a vision for this game that we're eager to share a little bit more with the community over time, especially. And then, we will have that conversation, essentially, with our fans and our community and build this together.
And I'm sure we'll make mistakes along the way. We've never done this before, right? This is the first time we're announcing a title that's in early pre-production. We're used to having interviews like this in the final 6 months to release, when the product's pretty much done, and we're looking at previews and reviews and whatnot. So this is the first time where we're talking about a game so early, because again, this is such a game that, you know, Med3 when this is the game that our community wants the most. So this is why we want to talk about it. So yeah, we'll be showing things we've never shown before, and talking about things we've never really engaged with before. So it's super exciting.
And I mean, specifically on the topic of Med3 when, like, how long have you been reading those comments? Because they're everywhere. They're always there. Like, how long have you been reading them, knowing that it's actually in production? Like, how long have you had this?
Well, that's a tricky one, because, you know, we've been saying Med3 when internally as well, and questioning ourselves and challenging ourselves and starting a few times. You know, it's for forever. I mean, we're always reading them, and trying to make it happen. And, you know, now's the time.
I remember when I joined the studio in 2016. I was in my first meeting, you know, waiting to be confronted basically with the game that's in the making. And I was like, okay, please let it be Med3. So I think we all have that sort of had that dream in us for a long time to embark on this journey. And as we said earlier, a few times we were, you know, tentatively exploring the idea, and then you come back to these comments and like, yeah, okay, maybe now is the time. So yeah, it's super exciting to finally get it out there.
Yeah, funny story actually is we after Attila, we had a proper go at some early concepting of Med3 as early as then, and we actually went off on a research trip. We went to the reenactment of the Battle of Grunwald in Poland. I took a small team, taking photographs, doing research, and we came back and actually decided to do Three Kingdoms, because again, it's that kind of balance of the right time, the right team, the ambition, and it just felt like, you know, no, what we want to do with Med3, just it's not the right time. We wouldn't be able to do it justice. So we did something that we felt was a better fit. So yeah, it's been a while.
And I suppose thinking about that, like picking the right time, I know before we said what makes it the right time now, but like, because there is that sort of fantasy offering side in Total War, and there is the historical side, what areas of Medieval 3, or I suppose Medieval 2, are you looking at really bringing to the fore, given that like maybe historical players gravitate more towards more campaign level mechanics, things like that? Like, are there any sort of considerations like that you're keeping in mind from quite early?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, obviously, especially for historical fans, I think the immersion and the authenticity from the campaign is really important. To our understanding, there's a want for, let's say, a lot of depth on the campaign, but the connection with battle is really paramount. I mean, that's ultimately what Total War is all about, right? You have cool, interesting decisions on campaign, you rewrite history over long periods of time, but then ultimately you lead your army into battle, and you're so close you can look into the faces of your soldiers, right? So I think that that connection between campaign and battle is something we are looking at specifically. And I think Med2, again, as an inspiration, had some great tie-ins there. You know, obviously one of the favorites is the equipment upgrades, where you make some decisions on campaign, you get better armor for your troops, and then you load into battle, and oh wow, they're actually wearing you know, better equipment now. So it's that level of detail that connects those two, the two games in one, very strongly.
Yeah, and it's you know, and there's more. You know, you know, obviously there's a whole list of features that you know, fans talk about in relation to Medieval 2, from the, you know, slotless buildings and the multi-led sieges. But we shouldn't forget that we are now, you know, 20 years since then, and we have so many Total War releases between Med 2 and now. You know, so there's, you know, we've often spoken in interviews and other opportunities about how, when we come to a Total War game, we have a whole list of features that we can pick from. Oh, is the family tree appropriate for this title? Is this, you know, we have to look and consider all of the titles between Med 2 and now. And you know, when we talk about fostering the rebirth of historical Total War, we need to, you know, it's kind of taking the best of the best and trying to, you know, to build Medieval 3 with all of that in mind, not just, you know, Medieval 2.
We always say internally that we obviously look at Medieval 2 a lot as sort of the grandfather spirit that inspires us, but really, the 20 years
Makes me feel old.
You've been there. I remember 2,000 years ago. But of course, in those 20 years since, we've done a lot of great games, learned a lot about making Total War, learned a lot about what our community appreciates in Total War games. So I think there's a lot to learn from, even the Warhammer games, of course, great things that they did. So definitely not the case of us just looking at Medieval 2, but really looking at a lot of the things we've learned since. and like drawing inspirations ultimately from all of these titles.
And things that we've never done before, right? New frontiers and new concepts that maybe haven't featured in a Total War game before, which is the kind of.
If you could keep it at top level, what do you want to make in Medieval 3?
Well, like I said, it's ultimately all about rewriting history in the ultimate medieval sandbox that portrays the world in the authentic dynamics that were at play. You know, we always care about, let's say, getting the buttons on the uniform right, and the helmets and armor design, and so the content design in the game. But perhaps more importantly even, for us it's important to capture the dynamics and the forces that were at play. So if you step into that sandbox, you feel like you're actually in this world. And really making sure that players can then in this sandbox decide to relive history perhaps, or tell their own story. And I think that's where really, let's say, all the strategic decisions and all the tactics on the battlefield, where they come together when you feel like, okay, this is almost my own history book, my own version of the medieval era that I forged, and all the great memories that I have looking back.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's not much to add there. It's the ultimate sandbox of the medieval world, the ultimate what if. It's a, we set the stage in the most authentic way that we can, so players can relive the history by the book as they want to, or they can change the fates of realms. It's really that it is that Total War kind of fantasy, but to a new degree.